Well, welcome back to Live at 9. I'm here with Matt Schultz. Thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We're talking about something that many people are concerned about, and it's a big factor in their lives and their lifestyle. So let's talk about child care costs, specifically here in Mississippi. And tell me, in relation to the rest of the country, do we have good costs for child care?
Well, good is certainly relative. There's not a place in this country where childcare is inexpensive. It's a big problem everywhere. But the good news is that in Mississippi, relative to the rest of the nation, the situation is okay. So we looked at the average cost of having an infant and a 4-year-old in full-time daycare, and the average cost for a year for that in Mississippi was a little over $14,000.
Wow.
That's a lot of money, but compared to a lot of the rest of the country, it's actually relatively inexpensive.
And that's crazy to think that it's inexpensive compared to the rest of the country. So really, on the grand scheme of things, we are doing okay. But like you said, nowhere in the country right now is it pretty much affordable, right? Would you say this is affordable for the average Mississippian family?
Absolutely not. And in our report that we did, we used basically federal government guidelines for what is generally considered affordable. And those standards are generally that you shouldn't be spending more than 7% of your household income on childcare. And in Mississippi, residents get nowhere close to that, but neither do residents of any other state in this country. So if for Mississippians to only be spending 7% of their household income on childcare, they basically have to double their average income.
Wow.
Right now, the average income is around $100,000 in Mississippi. It would have to be more than $200,000 in order to meet those government affordability standards, which is crazy.
And that is absolutely crazy. And like you said, that is based on the average Mississippian. So we're not even talking about those that maybe, just come under that threshold or the lower end of that spectrum, right? So lower income families. And what have you seen? How has this changed over the years? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? And what do you expect for years to come?
Well, unfortunately, childcare has only gotten more expensive. I mean, life in general has just gotten more expensive over the last few years.
Right.
But childcare in particular has just kind of gone wild cost-wise over the last few years. It's a really big issue for parents in Mississippi and all over the country. And unfortunately, there's a lot of reason to think that things aren't going to get that much better anytime soon. So the more that you can do to plan ahead and start saving as soon as you start thinking of having a family, the sooner you can start saving for those sorts of childcare costs, the better off you'll be.
So how have you seen people deal with this struggle? If it's not very affordable and, we've got to double our average salary and income to just afford this, have you seen more families, one person staying home and taking care of those kids and not even putting their kids in childcare? Or have you just seen maybe some financial struggles when it comes to childcare?
All of that is the answer. People have been deciding to have smaller families because of the cost. People are not going back into the workforce because of the cost, because they realize that in a lot of cases they'd just be working to pay for childcare. But there are things that you can do. There are resources. Googling childcare resources in my area is a good place to start, because there are organizations, whether it's governmental, nonprofit, religious, that are out there that have ways to help families who are struggling with childcare. Ultimately, the best thing is probably if you're fortunate enough to have a friend or family member that you can trust to offload some of the child care onto, but most people are not blessed to have that as an opportunity.
Absolutely, like you said, just to start saving as soon as possible, that's a good thing to start with, but also those resources that you mentioned around our area. You know, it's reassuring to know that Mississippi, in comparison to the rest of the country, is more affordable. You know, we're doing a little bit better, but it's still not affordable. So you've got to start planning, start thinking about what you'll do. You know, when you come to that situation with your family of not being able to afford child care. Matt, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Is there anything else you want to leave with our viewers when it comes to child care costs in Mississippi?
Really, the only thing I would add is just that it's important, as soon as you think that you may want to start a family, to start putting money away to deal with those child care costs. Because as bad as they are now, chances are it's only going to get worse. So the more you can do to put money away, the better off you'll be, even though it's certainly easier said than done.